Good evening. So far, more than 30 people have been confirmed dead following days of heavy rains that have ravaged several parts of the country. The districts of Bududa, Bulambuli, Sironko, and Bundubujo have been hit by landslides that have left thousands displaced. Despite the early warnings by the meteorological department about the above normal rains from October to January 2020, lives could not be saved. So as a country, what can we do to avert the devastating effects of the changing weather patterns? We have Engineer Hilary Onek, Minister for Disaster Preparedness. We have Honorable Mary Goret Kitutu, State Minister for Environment. We have Irene Nakasita, the Communications Coordinator for Uganda Red Cross, and Justin Kainza, Woman MP for Bududa District. Thank you very much for having honored our invitation. And all of you tonight, I can assure you, Uganda is watching. You are on the spot. The spotlight is on you. Thank you, and a warm welcome to all of you.
Thank you.
I'm going to begin with you, Honorable Engineer Hilary Onek, because you are the Minister for Disaster Preparedness and Refugees. Nature has given us such a very big blow. The tragedies of a high magnitude, 30 dead, many missing. It's a big catastrophe. One would want to know, or you could begin by telling Ugandans what the situation is like as of now.
Thank you very much, moderator. It is a serious situation as things stand now, because the magnitude of this disaster has surpassed our expectations. And the reasons why we have not been able to effectively cope with some of the situations. However, everything is in hand. So far, up to now, 35 people have lost their lives. 35 people have lost their lives. 14 bodies were found in Bududa, 4 in Sironko, 17 in Bundubujo, all totaling 35 Ugandans who lost their lives in during this disaster period. The situations varied. Like in Elgon sub-region, that volcanic mountain, yes, volcanic soil, because of the human activity, the soils have been exposed when most vegetation has been removed and cultivation has been done, and landslides occur in various parts. Early this year, I would say between June and November this year, we have had incidents of landslide, several small landslides, not to the magnitude of the current level. In Kasese and Bundubujo, there mainly the heavy rainfall brought about the bursting of river banks due to the swelling rivers with heavy flows.
But well, we are going to get into probably the causes, but also when you talk about the bursting of river banks, especially a river like River Nyamwamba, which goes through Kasese town, it's because of the silting of the river. It's because of the encroachment on the river. And that happens under the watch of government.
Well, this time is not really time now for blame game. We will not want to blame
So
them.
I'm not blaming you. I'm just telling you what happens in Kasese. You have brought the idea, the issue of river bursting their banks. They are bursting their banks, but in most cases, it's because of the heavy silting that takes place. It is taking place of the human activity, which human activity has not left a buffer zone to River Nyamwamba.
I totally agree with you. We have in all these districts environmental officers who should be enforcing the laws of settlements along river banks. They allow people to cultivate up to the river itself. And definitely silting takes place. I would wish at this juncture maybe to allow the scientists, the environmental scientist, Dr. Kitutu, to elaborate on what the cause is, and then we can dwell on the mitigation measures that we are taking.
Fair enough. I think
So forth.
you're so right. Let's go to Honorable Mary Goret Kitutu. How do we get here? How did we get here? And how can we mitigate such a phenomena that is killing Ugandans every year?
Thank you very much. I will begin by first giving my condolences to all Ugandans and to all people who lost their dear ones. I hail from Mount Elgon, so I'm personally touched because these are my people. And what actually happened is, it was on 9th September 2019. As a ministry, we normally give 3 months before we normally give the weather forecast. Like now, I'm going to give a brief of what will transpire in January, or by the end of December up to January. So we warned about above normal rains beginning October. And I think, as usual, because the reason why we're going to have above normal rains was because of the phenomena which is similar to El Nino, but this one is called the Indian Ocean Dipole, and in some other areas they call it Indian Nino, because it is similar to its sister in the Pacific. Now, this phenomena is a natural process. It has ever occurred. If you have ever heard of bad floods which were there in 1961, that was a similar event. We had a similar one.
There's a weather activity taking place on the Indian Ocean.
Exactly.
And we're getting a repercussion this side.
Yes, yeah. Now in 1994 we had also another event. 2006 there was also another event. Now this particular one is the strongest which has ever been recorded in science. Now what happens, why it is called the Indian Ocean Dipole, it is just that this ocean has a difference in temperature. So the western side of the ocean is warm, and the western side is the one that is close to East Africa. Meanwhile, the eastern side that is nearer to Asia and Australia is cooler. So what happens is, because this side is warm, water evaporates, creating a low pressure zone. So winds blow in. As they blow in, they bring with them moisture, pouring it on where? Onto East Africa. So this is a natural phenomena, and the rains actually, when we checked on the rain gauge, you know, we now monitor in Bududa, we can get daily rainfall on our phones. So I remember I've been monitoring this even when I was in Spain. I was able to see the rainfall the whole of November daily was above 100 millimeters. Now, on this D-Day, that was 2nd November, it was 300 millimeters for 5 hours. And that is a lot of rain. So it overwhelmed the system, which is already degraded.
Yes, okay, that's what I wanted. Because
yes.
Because the natural phenomenon came with a lot of force and gusto, and then found an environment that had been totally destroyed.
Yes.
And so that combination ended up in us, Ugandans,
Exactly.
losing 35
Yes,
of our brothers and sisters.
And the infrastructure, now, normally...
So Honorable Minister, I just want to know that whereas you say it's a natural phenomena that has come with a lot of force, I just want also to agree that the government and the people living in those areas have not done what is required of them to protect the environment.
The hills are bare.
But why are they bare?
And they are bare, yeah, because people have not planted. The trees which used to be there were cut. Now we are trying to... Now some places people have planted. Like my hill, I can give you an example. Like at home, my hill is planted and there was no...
Honorable Minister, you are a minister of Uganda.
Yes,
all the hills of Uganda are your hills. We want them planted.
And this is where we are going.
You cannot
now,
be saying you are hill.
No,
You're
I'm
okay.
coming.
My hill is not, and her hill is not.
I'm
and the other
coming
35 people are gone.
Because, you know, and this is what I have to say. You know, normally when we give this focus, And this is why now my colleagues in the Ministry of Disaster need to take this seriously. The moment we say we are going to have above normal rains, it should now sound a warning. And now what we are, and this is what I wanted to say, because Uganda needs to know this. Now this Indian Ocean dipole used to occur once every 20 years. I've just come from Spain, from the climate change COP. Now because of this climate change, we are now going to have it every 6 years. So they are warning that East Africa is going to suffer from floods.
Let me go to Honorable Justin Kaiser, because
So-
you're member of parliament. I'll come back to you, Honorable.
Yes.
You're a member of parliament representing Bududa. Bududa really has suffered so much, including this month. And I'm sure you're getting a lot of calls from your people, and you've been there to sympathize with them and mourn with them. We thought maybe Bududa and other areas would have some kind of bylaws or ordinances telling people what to do to live with nature. What is the situation like on the ground where you come from?
Well, I'll first pass my condolences to the Ugandans who have been affected by these natural calamities. The situation in Bududa, at the moment we are in a mourning mood because of what happened. We lost 14 of our people. But when you come to the question of environment, I think for Bududa we also need to look at the population factor, the population density being so high. So as the population grows, we have that pressure on the land. The Honorable Minister talked about the hills being bare. So for me, to get to the current situation, I would appeal to government to quicken, of course we are the government, the resettlement, the relocation process, so that maybe we plan as government for these remaining areas. Once we
Are
get...
your people willing to leave?
Oh, they are so much
They are.
willing. They are more than willing to
They are.
move. Actually, the Honorable Minister of Environment knows that these places are clearly mapped out. The hazard mapping has been done. Even when you move in the Elgon, actually Elgon, so let me talk about Bududa only. The cracks are so evident. They are within the community.
Yes.
But maybe as
In
government,
Manafa
we've
and
not...
Sindwa, we are.
we okay, I don't know, because of resources, we tend to come in when the disaster has occurred. But if we really followed the plan and evacuated these people before the
So
rainy
now,
season...
Honorable Kaiser is saying that the people are willing to move. The cracks have been seen on the mountain. Some of them are huge for many years. Your ministry is called Ministry of Preparedness. Where is your preparedness, sir?
Well, we are prepared except for resources, because to relocate these families, you don't just take them and dump them without any livelihood.
But now
Their
they have
lives.
died. But now some of them have died. There could have been a better way.
Well, we are now examining alternatives. The immediate program, which is in our hands right now, we are relocating approximately 1,400 population to Bulambuli, where we have constructed Bunambuti, where we have constructed houses for these landslide victims and those in those most endangered locations around Mount Elgon, because we have already scientifically determined the most disaster-prone locations where landslide would likely cover them. And now even visually it is evident that the cracks, we have records of all these cracks with us. And we have now come up with new idea that we are tabling into cabinet, that money be available to all those affected citizens who are below those rocks, to the danger zone, to be availed these resources to be able to go and find another location themselves, rather than waiting for us to construct for them houses and give them land.
Let me go to
model that we are
the.
doing.
Let me come to Irene Nakasita. You are from the Red Cross. We want to know the effort of the humanitarian response. What is it like? How is it going?
In all the areas
Where you are, where Red Cross is, yes.
Yes, well, thank you so much. And what I can mention is the Red Cross are working in close liaison with all the partners, including the Office of the Prime Minister. First of all, we have conducted the assessments of all these places that are affected, and that is a process that guides our response capacities. We have been able to identify with the families that have lost their dear ones. We have provided dead body bags for them, of course, to carry their people with dignity and decency. We have also supported transportation of these people to hospitals, those that are injured, and also provided relief, not to everybody. I know the Honorable Minister has talked of resources. We look at almost this year coming close to 1 million people receiving relief. And so particular districts like Bondibujo, Bududa, Bulambuli, Sironko have received support, away from Kasese and the other areas that were equally affected. So when we go to Bondibujo, we are talking of about 3,000 people right now displaced. And I want to thank the government of Uganda for gazetting 2 places where we can have them as transit centers. One of them is Semliki Secondary School, because ideally most of the people, when the disaster happened, they went to seek shelter there. But because it's big enough, yeah.
I can imagine Semliki now is in a lower land, right?
Not really, not so low and
because
not so high.
you want to run away from a mountain, but you also go to a lowland, you can get floods there.
No, it's not a lowland. So Semliki and Bobukwanga camp. I think many people know about Bobukwanga because it has hosted internally displaced persons before in Bondibujo. So right now people are camped there and they await support. And we are one of the agencies, of course, working with the government, the Doko district, and then other partners now who are trying to come in so that
so when
we
you
can
say
extend.
you're working with the agencies and government to deal with the 3,000 displaced people in Bondibujo, what exactly are you giving them?
That's what I'm actually trying to explain. Because giving them humanitarian response, one, people need water, clean and safe water. They need food. They need beddings. They need clothes. A number of social services, talk of health, so their medical needs to be taken care of. And so those are some of the humanitarian needs that I was referring to. And we have begun mobilizing. I can't say we've fully done our part because we were constrained with resources. But so far, at least we were able to respond immediately the disaster happened. Most of these bodies have been retrieved. Actually, all the 17 bodies have been retrieved, and they have been handed over to their dear ones for burial. That process alone took a lot of manpower, took a lot of resilience from the people that were on ground, including our own teams that were actually supporting this process.
Okay, thank you. Honorable Mary Goret.
Yes.
You know, the environment has been utterly destroyed. That's what I see. The forest cover for Uganda is dwindling at an alarming rate. In some cases, the cover is totally gone. Honorable Minister, this is right within your docket. And trees really don't need us. But we as a people, we need them. And if we are to survive as a species, we have to protect our environment. But looks like we are not.
Yes, it is true. Yes, we lost the tree cover, but as we speak now, if you look at the statistics, we are now recovering because we have started a massive tree planting campaign. And to give you the good news, we've been selected as a country to host the Africa Climate Change Week. That is in March next year. And in that week...
On the account of what? Because we've had so many disasters?
Not
or
really.
because you were making
not
progress?
Really. You know, now they are making climate change to be regionalized. It was Ghana which started. Now Uganda has been selected to be the second. And we want to take advantage of that to raise awareness and plant more than 100 million trees. So to me, I'm looking forward to planting trees back on the hilltops.
But you
And
know,
I'm already...
But you know, the land tenure system in Uganda is may not allow you to, plant so many trees because by about 50, 70 years ago, the forest cover was almost 50% of the whole country. But because part of that forest cover was on individual own land. So what are you going to do with that kind of land tenure system?
No.
Where do you put your forests?
No, this is actually is what has been troubling us. But I was discussing, I've just been in the COP25, and I'm also equally disturbed with what is going on. So we need to devise means, and I've been trying to identify people who are interested in coming. You provide us funds, then we're able to acquire that land and then plant trees. You know, trees, when you plant trees, the time when they absorb most of the carbon dioxide, because we plant it under climate change, is between 30 to 50 years. So after 50 years, the tree is as good as well in terms of cleaning the environment, but it can remain to maintain what? The soil cover.
Honorable, yes.
Now that is the only way out. Like
Restoring
now
our
within,
forest cover.
exactly. Now within the Environment Act of 2019, this year, the minister now has powers to declare an area under special protection. So these powers have now
Even private land.
Yes, because if we see that this area
That's a very
has
controversial
to be
idea you're bringing.
not really controversial, but we are already, by the way, already Parliament is yet to declare Kalagala offset under special protection. It is not controversial, but it helps because there are people who have.
Okay, Honorable, let me take this to Engineer Hilary Ronaik, because I was coming here and I meet this gentleman from my hometown, and he's telling me that we need massive tree planting campaigns to restore forest cover, like you're saying.
Yes.
And he was like wondering why. I was wondering why you don't do this, or maybe you just don't want to do it, Honorable Engineer Hilary Ronaik. And he says, no, Patrick, I think they mean well, but they just don't get it. I mean, he's watching right now. What would you tell him?
Well, the challenges of tree planting is, as you correctly observed it, in the land tenure systems we have in the country now. However, government can come up with a law which compels citizens who have certain percentage of their land covered by forest, so that these are inspected by the environmentalists in the districts to ensure that if we say we want 20% forest cover in our country, every farmer will have to see that 20% of their land is planted and forest covered, so that it is a must, it become a regulation for our survival, human survival. We put it in place. Even the districts can do that. And then this occupancy of land and for use up to the river itself, river banks, must be regulated. It is there in laws, but observation has been challenging because the villagers, rightfully
It's challenging
so,
who, Honorable Minister?
it's challenging to us as government because of lack of supervision and enforcement.
So the government is lacking supervision.
I'm saying the government agencies that are in the districts who should be enforcing this law are not doing their work.
But then
And
there's
this
a-
one now,
But then there's a government in power that's supposed to prevail over people who are not doing their work. In the
Yes.
districts, Honorable Engineer Hilary Ronaik, you go for them and you get them. Get them out.
and then secondly, there is also this phenomenon of deforestation which is ongoing, particularly in my own district and a number of districts in northern Uganda, where now charcoal burning has become terrible because the charcoal burners go from the south here. They camp in the forest. They burn charcoal. Trucks and trucks of charcoal are
Honorable
coming here.
Minister, all of us here, if I'm not mistaken, we have fallen short of the glory of protecting the environment because you have not, as a government, given us alternative means of energy. What can we do if people listening or watching you right now in your home districts, if they have had lunch or they have had dinner, that dinner must have been cooked, prepared using either charcoal or
Or
wood.
firewood,
And
yes.
sir, it's because they don't have an alternative. And there's a
Correct.
government
Correct.
that they voted into power.
You see, once we're in government, like we are in government, we cannot close our eyes to the facts as they stand. And maybe our limitations, we must accept it in enforcing some of this. And therefore, this brings about us to reevaluate our approach again as government.
So what alternatives would you
And-
suggest?
and then
what
re-strategize.
alternatives is government suggesting or you would have for the Ugandans to, use the environment in a sustainable manner? Because to survive, we must destroy the trees because we need to eat and we must eat. But eventually, The trees don't need us, we need them.
Maybe
Yes, okay, but I wanted to just tell him that maybe, as I say, we put in place, we already have laws in place. The enforcement of those laws have to be instituted strictly.
Yes.
And
But Honorable,
like-
you just mentioned
I
that
know.
on the buffer to be created near the river banks,
Yeah.
we have failed flat. So it is not a matter of bringing laws and ordinances. We have performed poorly in terms of putting into practice the laws that we have as a country.
I think I needed to throw more light. Now, what I have to assure you is that government has not failed to enforce. The government of Uganda has capacity. But remember, we are dealing with our people. So, normally when we are assessing environment, we usually look at the drivers. What drives people to begin cutting trees? You told me clearly that 1, it's poverty. 2, lack of alternatives. So that's where initiatives now like OWC are meant to help people. Once people get out of poverty, and then secondly, we as government, we are looking at, and we are already going even to look at it, if we could maybe waive tax on gas, then we have the town dwellers have alternatives. That means those who are burning charcoal will have no market and they will be able to leave the trees. But without that, me as a Minister of Water and Environment, I get a challenge. So sometimes I may be blamed that trees are being cut, but the underlying causes are somewhere. But you see, as a government, we all have collective responsibility. So we are working in an integrated manner. So those who are fighting poverty really need to be really promoted, especially OWC. Is a very good thing that addresses the household income.
But I think it is, Honorable Minister, I think it is above poverty because
It is.
because
It is
even
poverty.
the rich and powerful are actually using charcoal and wood to cook. I'm a culprit.
Let me tell you, I
Honorable
represent
Minister, I'm a
women.
culprit.
I represent women
I
in
eat meals every
parliament.
day and I think it's prepared using charcoal.
I represent women in parliament.
So I don't know what it is in other people. The rich and powerful in Uganda perhaps
Now,
are using
let me
electricity,
tell you,
but I also highly doubt.
No, the chain of, when you look at charcoal, those who are cutting, like, okay, in the north, those who are selling trees are selling to put food on the table. Now, those who are cutting to burn charcoal are also trying to get a livelihood. Now, when you go to look at most of the people selling charcoal, like in Kampala, women, you know, I represent women in parliament. So you sometimes when you're enforcing, you need to have another face. But otherwise, saying that government cannot enforce, that one
Okay.
is not right. The government of Uganda, if we determine to enforce, we can be able to enforce. But
Okay.
we are dealing with
Well,
our people.
Before we
are
take a
dealing
break,
with
before we take a
humans.
break
Yes,
quickly,
yeah.
I suppose maybe the right thing to do is that we cannot win ourselves off charcoal and
Yes,
wood for now,
but we are
have to
going
look for
there.
sustainable ways
Yes,
of dealing
yeah.
with that.
Yeah, you
maybe
cut a tree, you
using-
replace.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sustainable ways, Honorable Kynes, I suppose.
that's why we
Maybe
are planting.
Yes.
energy-saving stoves, maying replacing the
Bamboo, which
trees.
Trees
As
grows
of
very
now, I
fast.
think we are
Cut
still
and replace.
stuck with that. But we're
Yeah.
going to take a break, and when we come back, let's understand this issue more and what we can do as a country. We'll be right back.
On NTV Uganda.
Welcome back. You're watching On The Spot. My name is Patrick Amara and my guest tonight are Honorable Engineer Hilary Onek, Minister for Disaster Preparedness, Honorable Mary Goret Kitutu, State Minister for Environment, Honorable Justin Kayinza, Woman MP for Bududa District, and Irene Nakasita, who's the Communications Coordinator for Uganda Red Cross. And maybe if I can begin with you again in this segment, Honorable Mary Goret. We have seen the efforts, for example, of National Water and Sewerage Corporation trying to expand their water coverage in the greater Kampala metropolis. But because water has been so much polluted, again because we are degrading our environment, here near in Gaba, now they have gone to as far as Katosi, getting water deep from Lake Victoria and far away from Kampala, because this place here is almost not usable. And these are government institutions. This is because we have destroyed a water source that's supposed to be serving all of us. I suppose that could be one of the reasons. There could be many others which are technical.
Yes, you know, in environmental protection, when you do a wrong, you pay. You are able to pay through what. So the high prices of water could be a result of, because we have to get water from inside the lake. The nearer shores are polluted. But the good news is that under the same National Water and Sewage Corporation, we are revamping the system such that all the water that goes through Nachivugo Channel is filtered before it is released to the lake. A reason being that the Nachivugo wetland, given that Kampala now has grown, used to be a town of 7 cities, but Kampala is now bigger. So we cannot continue relying on Nachivugo alone to clean the water before we release it into the lake. So that system, once it is commissioned, we should be able to see the lake cleaned up. Now,
but
also,
overwhelmingly, Honorable Minister, it appears that effluent and industrial discharge and all this kind of thing is directly getting into the lake.
no, we do a lot of monitoring, especially when
Have you been
using-
to the shores of Gaba?
Yes, we
But
have been there.
You see the green algae that water has turned into some kind of a green pudding.
Yes, but now of course, with time it is going to clear once we stop the pollution source. So that has been the case, but I told you the challenge was the system that we had was for 1960, when National Water, Gaba Waterworks were made the sewage side. So revamping really under the loan from the French, and we believe that with that one, the lake will soon clear.
There has always been, some kind of an effort to keep moving it deeper into the lake. As we pollute here, we continue, we live deeper into the lake. And I'm wondering, at that level, we may find ourselves in Kisumu.
No, I don't think we shall reach Kisumu, because we are
No,
also
but-
putting in efforts, especially now with industries. They are required to, like Nile Breweries actually used to be a big polluter, but now it is one of the best, with the best high tech, and we are moving on them to make sure that they change the technology
All right.
so that they're able to recycle their waste, and we are monitoring that water. Of course, there are those few, especially at the hotels, those who are being releasing, especially those who construct and channel the sewage directly. But then with remote sensing, we can now detect anything entering the lake, and we've been following them up.
Okay.
So with the time, I think we shall catch up with
Engineer Hillary, I know some of these disasters are happening because some of them are just natural, but also because of the human activity that we are doing in our country. And I've seen rivers disappear in my lifetime. I've seen a river where I come from totally disappear. And if you've been to Mbarara, you know maybe because of the rains now people are better. But the major river in Mbarara called River Ruizi had become just a trickle. And people were thinking of getting water from as far as at Kagera, which is, I'm sure, has transnational boundary river that you just can't get water from there without consulting the Republic of Tanzania. So what do we need to do to save our rivers?
Well, again, as I mentioned, as I said earlier, again, it's just about environmental protection. Because River Ruizi, the second waterworks on River Ruizi, which is upstream of the one which is near the bridge. I remember I was managing director of National Water. We constructed that new waterworks. That time River Ruizi was still running, was still, it's a proper normal river. But over time, as people developed and moved closer to the river, it got silted. Now, it has been narrowed from upstream, and that's why you see those trickles.
So you don't stop them getting closer because you're protecting your political capital, or what is it?
No, this is just negligence of
On the part of who?
public servants.
On the
The
part of
public
who?
servants who should be enforcing. There is no politics in this. These are public servants in the districts, the environment officer, all these policemen are there who can enforce It
So
has nothing to do with the politics.
So when they don't do their part, what does the government do?
Well, that may be the weakness from
That
our
is
part.
always- that has
That's the
always been the
weakness on
weakness.
our part. But
Engineer.
the enforcement, as I mentioned earlier, is paramount. We need to get enforcement of the laws we have made, which are good laws, but implementation.
Justine, your job is really to make laws, to appropriate funds, but also do the oversight role.
Exactly.
You are equally culpable in this because you should have put better laws as a parliament. You should be able to do the oversight role, go to this district that is talking about when public officials have not done their part, the MP should be there. And if they are saying there's no money, it's again your job to appropriate funds.
Yes, you know, Uganda also being part of the global village. Here we're talking about sustainable goal number 13 on climate change and its effects. So actually, the sustainable development goals, nations, they're supposed to, which Uganda is part of, we're supposed to collect $100 billion actually annually to help with the issues of climate change. So from the international level, as a country, we've already subscribed some of these instruments. But when it comes to the national, the laws are indeed in place, the Forest Act, the Environmental NEMA Act. But for me, I think on my side, I feel we should engage the communities more. Let them appreciate. Like when you come to Bududa now and we talk of planting trees, from what has happened, from the so many landslides which have occurred, or in the Elgon zone, Elgon region, people will easily now buy into it. If we really sensitize them on the effects, and some of which they've seen, go to River Nyamwamba, go to Bundibujo, where, I mean, if we got the communities closer, and for me I feel if we sensitize them, now that they've even seen the effects, because it's a global challenge, it's not only Uganda, so we need to do more sensitization. The laws are in place, we have really, there are so many, but we need to get the people to appreciate the magnitude
You know
of
what
this
I'm
challenge.
hearing from you, Justine, and,
Yes.
and all of you, my guests this evening, is that we know what we need to do, but why don't we do it?
That now.
Well, I can chip in.
Yes.
Honorable Hillary was talking of enforcers,
Yes.
really coming up to be able to mobilize communities and also enforce some of these policies and laws so that people can actually do the rightful things. For us as Red Cross, by the way, most of the time, I can tell you we've invested heavily in Mount Elgon area.
Yes.
And that's why when an emergency happens, even if somebody is not wearing a Red Cross jacket, but at least they are empowered with skills. They know what to do when something happens, emergency. And so when it comes to even mobilizing them to protect the environment, they have been sensitized and they are doing it. Partly, yes. There are those that are really, really doing it, although there are those that actually do not care. But the issue of enforcing, I think we need to have maybe more people from government supervising and supporting people down at the grassroots to be able to do what they should be doing.
Honorable Engineer Hillary Onek, for example, you know, in West Nile, because your docket is actually disaster preparedness on refugees, you have refugees who have come in some districts, and in some cases, the number of refugees has surpassed the number of the host communities. And there's a conflict, and you know, for resources with the host community and the refugees. And of course, they have to eat, they have to survive, so the forest cover has been totally destroyed, the water environment sources destroyed. And I'm thinking, well, you have a very good policy on refugees, but perhaps we are punching above our weight.
Yeah, it is true that the influx of refugees in some areas, particularly in northern Uganda, in West Nile, it is having a devastating effect on the environment. However, we have now put in place a tough regulation for the United Nations High Commission for Refugees and all their partners who are operating refugee settlements to ensure that the environmental norms are restored in those areas. Trees must be planted, they must mobilize, they must bring resources, the money, and they have money now in their budget to plant millions of trees, which are now, they are coordinating with centers, tree growth centers and so on. They are moving into planting trees where the refugee settlements are, and then also helping the host community, the local people, to also get into planting trees. We integrate them into this kind of program so that at the end there would be reforestation of those areas where the refugees are. At the same time, we are working on the energy side of it to ensure that they use now more energy saving stoves,
Yeah.
etc., etc., and then burning briquettes from some leaves or waste,
Waste
stems
material.
from maize plantation, from whatever. Instead of burning them, use them again to reproduce some briquettes which they would use in place of charcoal, etc. That effort has started, and we are going to ensure that that is geared up to a maximum level during the next 2 years to ensure that this could be done.
Honorable Mary Goret, we have had reports from the people of Adjumani, for example, that there's a forest with a rare species of African trees. I think it is called the Zoka forest.
Yeah.
That has been encroached on, almost at an industrial scale. Under your watch, with all respect.
I don't think we have watched, and actually as I speak I have we monitor our forests, and I can show you, I have a video these days with technology, and I can show you how the trees were disappearing. Now what happened in Zoka is the war in the north is what actually, and when you follow the trend of Zoka, by 2002 Zoka was still intact. Now 2005 is when you see one of the IDP camps, and then after the war, now you find these people wandering into the wilderness of Zoka. So we have followed these trends, and we are trying to show government. But of course Zoka it is still okay. It is something which I cannot comment on because we are yet to see the two sides. But what happened, the main problem was the war. And then
I
people
have a
moved
friend of
in.
mine called William Amanzuru, a young man from that area who has really tried to drum up support from the local people to protect the forest.
Yes,
But
yeah.
Mr. Manzuru has not had, at one time he even working for Zoka from Kampala to Adjumani. And all is trying to show, look, we the people of Zoka, the people of Adjumani, we are concerned about the depletion of this very important forest, but government was not a very good partner at the beginning. In
Yes,
fact, during
no.
the war, Zoka was safe.
No, it started around 2005. The war I think ended at around
2006, the following year.
2006, yeah. But by 2008, that's when people now started exploring. And with the time, when people learned that actually there was this Afzelia, the Afzelia tree species. Of course, they were cutting it on both private and in the forest reserve. Now again, that again falters. Like my colleague, the engineer Hilary Onek, saying that some of the institutions we have to accept in government, because we went there as a minister to enforce. The community, I must commend the community in Zoka, because they rose to fight against the people who should have protected the forest. So as I speak now, we dismissed 2 NFA staff who were part of the game. I'm sorry to mention this. Even the RDC was it, of course, at that time. And you can now see that was the team which was supposed to protect the forest. But the community, using their arrows, were able to fight. Maybe by now the trees. That's why I'm saying that the Constitution says every Ugandan has the right to protect the environment. So I must commend the people of Zoka for that spirit. And from there, I think we are going to make headway. As I speak now, I think it is on the table of HE. And for me, once it is decided, I think the center of Zoka is those who encroached, and they are claiming Ascens tree.
And the funny part is, Afzelia, the tree you're talking about, perhaps is taking decades even to grow. Somebody comes and cuts a tree that has been standing for 100 years.
No, 300,
300 years.
Yeah.
It is so painful.
Afzelia is a tree that is a medicinal. It is a very hard wood. It makes very expensive timber, and some of them have taken over 100 years to grow.
With that kind of pitch
So-
for it now, people are going to Zoka right
And
now.
actually, when we no, you know the value when we valued
It is
each
a
of that tree, its value each tree goes to almost more than even 10 million. Now, these people, of course, who are going there go and convince the unsuspected communities who don't know the value. And actually, I'm now
So
Engineer
it
Hillary.
must be more of an insider job within government for people
No,
to have the capacity, understand what it is. People have even
Actually.
said information, and even to be able
Yes, yeah.
to hoodwink the people working within there.
yeah,
So
because it is our
so the
heritage
problem
now.
could be within your government, Honorable
In
Minister.
fact, I want just to support
Yes.
my colleague,
Yes, yes, sir.
Minister, that really we need to sensitize the population, mobilize them against destruction of this forest. I've done that very effectively in my district of Lahore, where up to now we still have Abselia africana still in abundance, but the loggers had gone big time there, and they were collaborating with some district administrators, some local politicians in the districts, bribing them, and the forest officers in the districts closed their eyes. They even joined the game and get paid, and they were really cutting. So I mobilized the youth.
I've also seen some destruction. You go beyond Muchwini, beyond Madipe, even up to Taritenya Hills, because I've been to your place.
That's across.
Yes.
Now I mobilize the youth. Right now I have youth brigade that are arresting all these loggers and arraigning them to police. And we have got a very good regional police commander in Gulu who is very supportive.
But you know
And
what
we are doing a good job.
What
We
I
have
hear
stopped
from
them.
you,
We have stopped
Engineer
them.
Hillary and Honorable Goret Kitutu, that each one of you, including maybe members of parliament, you have islands of success in your different places. But these islands of success and what you do, this work is not infectious to touch the whole of the country. Why?
No,
I
no,
think
we
political
are.
mobilization is required.
Yes.
Really.
Because like under Afzelia, actually the people who were aiding the transportation from the north to the goods shed here was NFA. Because you know NFA in the law, they have powers to, you know, they transport, once they arrest the timber,
Okay.
they should bring it to the center.
Okay, maybe now what I'm hearing is that our problem
So we were
in
able to
terms of
get
environmental
this.
protection is really ministries, departments, and agencies of government have let us down.
And Ugandans
The
who are
MDS,
not
the MDS have let us
those-
down.
These are not people who are not patriotic. Let me tell you,
individuals.
if you went to Ethiopia and you told an Ethiopian that do this and it is against his nation, he will never do it. So why should we Ugandans be the ones to lead others to do wrong things in our countries?
Ethiopia is
So-
right now restoring the forest cover at a
Exactly.
massive scale and even winning
So
global accolades.
that's why I'm
because
tasking
what was
all
once a desert
Ugandans.
is now regenerating. But let me go to a different
Yeah.
issue now before we take another break. With these kind of floods or landslides, we're likely also to get floods. And areas of, eastern Uganda, like Soroti,
Both,
maybe it should also be
Actually, both.
both.
Taleja.
But I remember the Red Cross, back in the day, you had an idea of building what you called flood-resistant huts. I wonder how a hut will also resist floods. But are they there? Are they actual? Do they actually resist the floods?
In Teso area,
Yes, in Uganda, you had that
Uganda,
project.
actually that project is in Teso area.
It's
It
a
was
pilot.
implemented and it ended in 2017. But apparently today people are constructing flood-resistant huts. They are there is a way they model their huts and
So they have picked your idea.
elevate exactly and elevate them a little so that when the floods come, they don't sweep them away. They are there. Actually, Teso area, that's what they are constructing today.
So what is the preparedness in that area of potential floods in the Butaleja and Teso area, Honorable Minister?
There are two different reasons why those things happen. The flood happened in Teso, for example, is when it rains heavily on Mount Napak, which is bordering Karamoja and Teso. Heavy rains there in the olden days in Teso, there were dams that would, when the water flowed down the hill, it would be absorbed into those dams and then find its way in an orderly manner to Lake Kyoga. But now, all these dams are silted, and therefore they no longer hold water there. They are now like the land, free, and the water just flows, and now when it flows, there's nowhere to be captured, and it spreads on the land where people have settled, and you find water layer on top of the soil, and those grass thatch houses made white mud wall, they get eaten up by water the weekend, and the buildings collapses, and so forth. And that's what is going. I've seen it with my own eyes. I spent some times there in the Katakwi, in all this Orumo and all that area where this has been happening. So our solutions, we are developing a solution to present to cabinet that we'd go on massive desilting of all those dams in Teso and restoring the system that used to capture this water before it floods the land around Teso. That is one way.
You know, Teso floods have given us a warning. So have you tried to restore those systems?
That's what I'm trying to inform you, that we need equipment, we need resources, money to put fuel, we need a workforce, we need capital to move.
We had a disaster, we called it Teso floods. That should have been an eye-opener. You are an actual engineer, and you have worked those areas. You know the exact place. So why hasn't the government moved to do it?
I'm only informing you that government is moving. We are moving in that direction.
That means what?
That means we are working out to source for resources to do the work. Because what the problem is understood, we know it, we know what to do, but we need the resources to do the work. Number two, the other source of flooding, like in Butaleja, in this area of Bukedi, is because most of those swamps which used to absorb all those rainwaters have now been cleared and turned into rice fields.
Okay.
In most cases, the rice fields cannot hold those water effectively like the papyrus swamps we used to hold it. And for that reason, there is excess water, which now...
It is running off.
Run off.
There was a time actually driving to Karamoja when I just saw water coming, crossing, when there's no rain.
Yeah.
But it was raining somewhere in the hills of Napak. And here it is so dry, and yet there's a volume of water coming to sweep us.
That's what affects us. But on the side, all those swamps have been cleared.
And there's hot sun, and the water was coming with big volume. I just couldn't believe that.
So
but
it will require now...
You have asked of a contingency, some kind of disaster fund.
Yes,
we are working on that.
Where is the money? Because that should have happened like yesterday.
Yes, you talk about Article 175 of the Constitution. That's pertaining the contingency fund.
Yes.
As Parliament, especially the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development and Parliament, we need to operationalize this fund. Because it's so clear in the Public Finance Management Act, Section 26, it says 15% of that money should go to disasters. But I think as an institution, we have not really moved to clearly, like that Section 26, yes, needs to. It needs to be, we need to clarify clearly on how this 15% should be used. Because like sometime when the state minister was presenting and he said, you know, we are using donor monies. For me, I looked back, I'm like, what about the contingencies fund? So I think on our side as Parliament, we need Minister of Finance to start with, and then Parliament need to work in collaboration to ensure that the contingencies fund is operationalized.
But, you know, I just don't understand it, because most times people come with supplementary budget for things that are not as serious as these, and then you pass it at a supersonic speed.
And maybe
why?
Another...
Does it make sense?
But of late we passed 20 billion for, but still it gets back to the fund.
Honorable Goret, you're going to make that point, because we have to take a break.
Yeah.
And when we come back, I'll give you the opportunity to conclude your point. But also, I'll open the line so that you two at home or wherever you are, you can be a part of this discussion. We're going to put numbers on the screen. You see them, you pick your phone and tell us. And please make it precise and concise. And you tell us your name and where you are, and go for your question. And please tell us if you have a question to whom you want that question to be directed to. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching On the Spot. My name is Patrick Kamara. My guest tonight are Honorable Justin Kainza, Honorable Engineer Hilary Onek, Honorable Mary Goret Kitutu, and Irene Nakasita. Thank you very much. Now, I just want to change gears and take you to another issue that probably because I have Honorable Hillary and Honorable Mary Goret, and in your respective ministries, maybe you could respond to this, because the information you are getting is that Mashon Falls, you are suggesting as a cabinet to have a dam built on that very beautiful place that is so rare in this. I think it's a wonder of Africa. Must we really destroy our environment that in the quest for power? Can't we get other alternatives? What is really the issue in as far as cabinet stand is concerned on the issue of Mashon Falls? Honorable Goret.
Thank you very much. I think as cabinet, I don't think I've seen people saying that we have decided that Mashon Falls should be given away, but I don't think that was what was decided. You know, when such a project comes, for us from the environment side, it is us who first come to do the assessment, like we did for Mabira. By the way, some people have never known that when we did the assessment, the value of Mabira was far heavier than sugarcane. So there is no way you do. So
Yeah, but
in
there was also
environment side,
there was also some form of a protest and demonstration.
of course,
and
those,
some, even some people died.
but that is also good because we have been able to sensitize people to know that the value of the environment. Now, of course, for us on our side, development, people can always have their dreams. You don't stop people from dreaming. There are those who can say they want to build dams there,
No.
but we first put it on the weighing scale, the costs and the benefits. Now, for us from the environment side, it has not yet reached our table, so I wouldn't comment
Okay.
from whatever, and I don't know who decided.
I had the Speaker of Parliament, the Right Honourable Rebecca Kadaga, who I think didn't take that lightly because it had been announced apparently at the media centre, and asking government to come and talk these programs in Parliament, not at the media centre. And I remember she used the Lusoga word, which was then translated in English, and I think I liked so much, asking Muliviki. We may not understand it. What is this about in Lusoga?
Mulikuchi.
Mulikuchi. Mulikiki. So it says Mulikiki or something like that. Yeah, but I can understand. It's asking the other side of government, the
What are you
executive where you
up
sit,
to?
sir.
What are you up to?
What are you up
What
to?
are you after? And I can imagine the people around Mashon Falls, the Banyoro, probably would come out with another word and say, Nyangiri, I've refused on this one. And you even risk making some of us who are supposed to be so neutral in some of these things, even to turn us into activists when it comes to environment. No, I won't. Because it is so dear to us.
Because what I have to say is from our side of environment, we've never received any proposal. So we've not put it on the weighing scale. It is still at maybe dreaming level. So I don't know whether you have anything to answer. But
Okay. I think you've been thorough.
for us, from our side,
Mhm.
and this is what I have to tell you, that you can bring your project, and if we see that it is not environmentally viable, we shall say no. And if you go ahead, we've ever done it. Like even opening that dam, whatever, we said no. They went ahead and did it and whatever. So from our side, we've not received anything.
Our
So
Honourable
I
Engineer
cannot
Hillary
comment
Reneke,
about anything.
Our biggest selling point as a country, like the hanging fruits, is actually tourism and agriculture. Are you also maybe, as a cabinet, thinking at some ways that through competition in the region and far beyond, we could get a blow at a level that has come from outside because you don't want to compete?
No,
How
actually-
ready are we to protect our environment from within and from without?
First of all, let me let you know that Cabinet has not approved that project yet. But the proposal was brought before Cabinet and it faced a lot of objections. So it has not been approved. As my colleague minister has stated here, the environmental impact has not been done.
Nothing.
Me, as a water engineer specialized in the area of dams and hydraulic structures, I would definitely rubbish that project. You know, the river Nile at that point, where it's now going down to the waterfalls, it is split into two sides. Because
It's a
during the
fault line.
increase, during the heavy rains of the 60s, of 1962, 62, 63, The volume
Would
of
have
the
been another
Nile,
Indian Daiko.
yeah, the River Nile volume, the volume of water had gone up like today, and therefore it is forced to open up another route
Tributary.
downstream from up, from above the, from the up above the waterfalls. And that distribution, that part, which is split and going down, they are saying they will put a dam there, and therefore generate electricity will not affect this other one. They're just daydreaming. You can't do that. Technically, first of all, it will not even produce the power you are looking at. If
The
it is
300
done,
megawatts.
it will not even make that 300 megawatts, because the amount of water going through there, they haven't yet ascertained it. Most of the water seems to be going through the main waterfalls, which is there. Secondly, given the tourism part of the River Nile, as it runs, there are so many other sites before that waterfalls that can have hydropower stations. Why do you go for that particular tourism site? It would be crazy. Actually, I don't think most of us in Cabinet will support it. It is still in the hands of the Ministry of Energy. We are waiting for that proposal, and I think it has not been given thorough thought by the
I think
Ministry.
I'm inclined
It's
to
not been
believe
given a
you.
thorough thought.
I'm
no.
inclined to believe you because of your profession as an engineer specializing in dams and hydrology.
Yeah.
I think I have to believe you more. But also as somebody sitting in cabinet, and I suppose for those who are listening, I think we should listen to Engineer Hilary Onek more, because these things are not about emotions, it's about
Yeah.
science.
You see the
Yeah.
split.
Yes.
You see the split on the left side. That's the part, the side from the split which they intend to put the dam. But less water goes through that split, that side, than the main. You see, the split, this is the main. I think, I don't know whether this is the split. But anyway, if it was shown properly, at the beginning there you will see the two, and less water is going that side. In
Okay.
any case, when you dam it,
They might want to
It will
change
definitely-
where the water is going.
most water may be forced to come this way other than going through the dam. I mean,
But also, even if they dam or not, what I can see is that as somebody who understands the hydrology much better than we could even try to imagine, I suppose that hydrology supported the forest cover.
yes,
And if we have finished the forest cover, even the dams we are building on the River Nile, so long as the forests are destroyed, those dams are going to run dry.
They will
Yeah.
not be
they
sustainable.
would. They would. With this changing environmental
Yes.
situation, when the rain goes, when we go without rain for 6 months, then there may be nothing. There will be very little coming from there. It will not make economic sense.
So if we need to build more dams on River Nile, then we need to serious afforestation.
Do
upstream.
afforestation, do bank protection of river banks. For example, for River Nile, you need at least 10 and 100 meters away. The latest human activity, the nearest human activity must be 10, 100 meter or beyond, 150 meters away from the river, so that the river remains natural the way it is. The forest cover around the country will help on moderating the
Rain.
rainfalls, and at the same time also controlling the wind and other factors that normally would create problem with the reservoirs. Because with the wind, when it blows over the reservoir dries faster. We lose a lot of volume of water,
All right.
and so forth.
Before our time is out, I'm going to open the line so that we get to hear what Ugandans are saying tonight on the issues of response to disasters, the landslides in Rwenzori and the Elgon area. And if you've been affected, you could also tell us your story, but how do we need to respond to you? I know maybe Irene Nakasita and with their group, probably they should be talking about how to respond to you. Maybe mobilizing Ugandans to be able to, we are supposed to be your brother's keeper and the sister's keeper and give whatever we could so that we help our brothers in need in the Elgon area and the Rwenzori. But maybe Irene will have a certain formula that we can use. Let me take a call online. I have a caller. Hello.
Hello.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir.
How are you? I'm going to ask my producer to increase on the volume in the studio so that my guests can hear you. Please continue.
Oh, thank you so much,
All right.
host. My name is David Steven.
Okay.
Yes. What my comment is,
Yes.
I wonder why our government officials look at our very sensitive sites like that. Number one, we have power already which is elected. What is there a need for more power in this country? Currently, I don't think so.
James, I think there's need for more power. The power that we have now only supplies to about 20% of Uganda's population. And if we had like 2 or 3 industries to come up, like the one now in Osukuru, that power would not be enough. And you have to work now because you can't work later.
Well, if you add additional the minor, it doesn't work out. We need that waterfall.
Okay.
My answer, no. We shouldn't say that to Hillary Clinton appeal. I wish they continue with that spirit. We shall have it at Uganda tomorrow.
Thank you very much, James. Let me take another caller online. I'll take about 5 of you. And if you have a question, please be specific who you want that question to be directed to. I have a call online. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Masindi.
Masindi. I didn't get your name clearly, but I know you're calling from Masindi now.
I'm Robert.
Robert, yes.
Yeah, I think from the show,
Yes.
it looks like everybody in this country is aware of the challenges we are facing. Like has been discussed, nobody is taking responsibility of taking action of what is wrong to be stopped. Just 2 minutes ago, clearly mentioned that they've had their identical efforts in some areas, but these are not spreading to other areas. We have Bugoma forest being cut. We have Maction poles being turned down into another activity, and yet we have sugar factories. All sugar factories, by the way, have potential producing power. They have technologies of producing power which we need. So it is better for government to support factories, produce power.
Oh, sorry. I think he was giving us a very important point there. But I don't understand also the sugar politics, because it appears we have enough sugar being produced in Uganda. The other day we are begging Kenyans to buy our sugar, which caused a lot of trouble in Kenya. But here we are expanding. I just don't get it. Anyway, let me take 2 or 3 more calls, and then my guests will respond and then make their concluding remarks. I have a call online.
Hello.
Good evening, sir. What's your name?
Yes, I'm Claudia Apollo. I'm calling from Kawari.
Apollo, you're in Kabali.
Yes, please.
You're on air, sir, Apollo.
Yes, good evening. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Go right ahead, sir.
Do you know that the rich people are the ones who are destroying the environment?
The rich?
The rich people,
And how is that?
like destroying forests, swamps. Now, how are you going to do that? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Apollo in Kabali.
Now I'm going to stop
Yes.
there.
Okay, tempted to take maybe 2 more.
That's
The question
great.
number of you would want to speak to the people in the studio tonight, and it will just be a question of time if I don't pick your calls. Hello.
Hello.
Good evening, sir. What's your name?
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
You are on air, sir.
My name is Andrew Wekono.
Andrew, where are you calling from?
I'm calling in from Mbale, Bugis region, sir.
Okay, you're on air, Andrew.
Yes. Thank you so much for hosting those leaders, especially from those leaders from our region.
All right.
Patrick, my concern goes to our leaders. The problem with our region is our leaders.
What's wrong with them?
Patrick, no, honestly, Patrick, those people come in simply because when we have challenges, they come in. Now, take an example of the woman MP. She's just coming on TV right now.
But wait a minute. I think that's very unfair.
Let them ask it.
I mean,
No.
there's a
Patrick,
yes.
Patrick, the challenge here in the Bugis region is our leaders. They
How
come
are
on
their
air simply because when we have such issues now,
I should also admit that I never invited them last week and the other week and the other week. So probably I've invited them today.
Patrick, Honorable Nick, landslides have been happening. We don't see the reason as to why our people cannot be settled. This should not be a habit.
Okay,
It should not be a habit, Patrick. People are suffering here.
I know. I hear it in your
Yes.
voice. Okay.
Honestly, Mr. Nick, not 100% of the region. It should not be a habit, my brother.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Thank you very much, Andrew Nimbali. You've made your point. There's a time when you hired earth equipment machines. Let me take, my producer is telling me that I should pick another caller. And so I'm obliged to do that. Let me take a caller. Hello.
Hello.
Good evening, sir. What's your name?
My name is Benjamin.
Benjamin, where are you calling from?
Bulisa.
Bulisa.
Bulisa district.
Yes, you're on air, Benjamin.
I'm surprised as to why too much focus has been put on power at the expense of this beauty here in Winyoro.
Power, political power, or
What is the difference?
okay.
Machismo is forced. Why attack machismo?
Okay.
Here we have more than enough power which we can't even tap.
All
Where
right.
are they going to take it?
All right. I can imagine. I just brought in the issue of Murchison that was just on the periphery, but it is taking center stage. I hope you guys understand.
Away from the lives
gravity
that
of
are
the
lost.
issue.
Yeah.
The thing that has not taken much of our time looks to be at the center of Uganda's, at the pulse of the country.
Maybe
Perhaps you can make
Yes, now,
yes, Justin.
yes, the caller from Bali, of course, talked about the leaders coming up at such a time. Well, it's, of course, National Objective 23 is clear. It's the role of the state to protect people about natural calamities, or who have been affected by these lives, who have been affected by natural calamities, to be settled, and, of course, their livelihood. So, as leaders, we have engaged government, and for me, we are really happy that government is buying into the idea of giving people who have been affected money to go and acquire land wherever they can for quicker response, and also to enable them maybe buy in areas where they can easily access the social amenities like the education, the health. So as leaders of the region, for me, I could, as Bugishu Caucus, we have taken that as a position, and that has always been our position. And at the moment, we are happy that government is buying into the idea of resettling, giving people money to buy. Such many lives are saved because the slides are occurring at a very high speed compared to the rate of construction, for instance, in Bulambuli. So that's leaders of the Elgon zone, we welcome that idea. And people of Bugishu should rest knowing that the leaders, we are not just sitting back. At least we've been in the communities and we are their voices. We shall push the state to ensure that these people are resettled as early enough.
And that is your concluding remark, Justin.
Yes.
And thank you very much,
You're welcome.
Engineer Hilary, on a response and also your concluding part.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much. The first one, David, definitely agree with you. However, on to do with power, I don't think the problem with power is that we have enough power. We don't have enough power as a country. As mentioned earlier by the moderator, it's only enough to cover 20% of the population. Even then, the 20% still use charcoal for cooking, most of them. They don't even use the power. So the fundamental issues to do with power, number one, the coverage is very low, only 20% of Ugandans. If 80% were to get to use this power, it would not be total enough. Number two, the tariff is too high. And it's exorbitant, is meant for only the privileged, and most even the high level people are using charcoal. This is an something clearly we must accept, and it must be changed because the tariff must come affirmatively down. All those loans which are maybe for 20, 30 years should be extended to 60 years in order to cut down tariff by half, so that the period of recovery is made longer, and so forth. And sometimes the pricing of electricity is speculative, because this private sector, they look at high profits, and this must be reviewed. And I think I agree with that one. And then distribution network is not adequate. And then the capacity to use the power, the villagers, particularly those using grass thatch houses, so they cannot use the electricity. So these are all, again, poverty aspect, which we are also trying to address through the various initiatives government has taken, which people should take seriously. So definitely agree with you. Power, we need more power. The cutting of forests, we have exhaustively discussed it here with the Minister of Environment, Mr. Robert. The enforcement officers in Bunyoro there must make sure that their forest is not destroyed, depleted. Sugar, we are talking about dispute with Kenya about sugar, but a lot of the neighboring countries like South Sudan, Congo, and other parts of Africa, they don't produce sugar, enough
Shall
sugar.
we compete with the Mexicans if they decide to supply South Sudan because they can supply it on cheap?
Well, that
Or Congo?
the production side of sugar, if it goes up, the price will come down.
But I think it was not about the price, it was about the sugar factories also producing energy.
Yeah, the sugar
That was-
factory, also produce energy.
That was the callers.
Yeah. That one
Okay.
also contribute. Then the one saying the rich are the one destroying the environment. Yes, the rich participates. They use charcoal. I agree with you. And now
They
with
sell
the
the
rich,
trees. They own the trees. maybe.
I don't agree with you that your leaders are problem in Bugisu. Most likely Mishanambeshe, yes.
Oh,
Ambeshe is
no.
a problem.
No, I don't agree with that. Because Nambeshe, no, Nambeshe is my MP. He advocates for the good of the people of the Elgon.
So I think that is just a joke. That's a part of they are good leaders. They are very good leaders.
Before I
in
come
Bugisu.
to Honorable Gore, you know, now we have lost 35 people. Perhaps the number could go up higher than that, and then we are in that kind of disaster. I was wondering whether government, whether we are flying our flags at half mast, whether we're going to mourn our brothers and sisters as a country. Engineer, we just can't.
Well, yes, the problem is sad. It's sad. I remember shedding tears when I went to
Bududa last year.
I
remember.
shedded tears.
Yeah,
I couldn't believe what I was seeing.
For a country that is
And,
patriotic, for a country that loves
it
her
is a-
people,
it's
it
a
is
good
this
proposal.
thing to be flying our flags at half mast,
It's
Yes.
a good
and
proposal.
perhaps having a day to mourn our brothers and sisters who perished in this landslide.
It's a good proposal. I will share with the Prime Minister tomorrow. He right now is in Bundibujo.
Individual today.
I'll share with him tomorrow. We see whether we cannot really put the flags at half mast for the use. Our people who lost their lives in this disaster.
All right, Honorable Goret, your parting shot.
Okay, I will, I think, throw more light on Bugoma, answering Robert from Masindi, because you know Bugoma has been at the center of conflict between us, especially the Ministry of Water and Environment, and the Kingdom of Bunyoro. Now, what I want to tell Ugandans, because actually this issue came up during the last elections, the people were like, it is government which is destroying our forests. Now, the forest of Bugoma, the conflict is between us and the kingdom, whereby the kingdom was claiming that it was part of the assets that were returned to the kingdom. But when the Solicitor General interpreted that instrument, it shows that Bugoma was not, all Central Forest Reserves were not part of the assets which were returned to the kingdom. Now, what happened here is Ugandans need to know that it was not the Ministry of Water and Environment. Now, in 2016, a title was created in Bugoma by Ministry of Lands. Okay, we are all government. And 5 days later, the lease was given to these people now who are claiming. So you can see, now we went to court and tussled it out, and they were claiming that Bugoma had not been surveyed. I was the minister.
I hope you are not still in court. Are you still in court? Because we're not supposed to talk
Well,
about. If
we are
there's
not
a-
supposed to talk about
If that's a
that,
court
but
issue,
the
we have to
court,
leave it at- we have to
the
leave it at
court
that.
ruled. You can now see that we've
Yes,
lost
okay,
the case,
okay, we've
whatever.
lost.
And now Ugandans are blaming. Actually, the whole blame is on us, NFA, when actually, once people title and another arm of government sides with the other side. Now, for us as the Ministry of Water and Environment, although we all know that Bugoma is a Central Forest Reserve, which was gazetted in 1934, but we have not yet given up. We are still trying to use all means to see that we save that forest. But the people of Nyoro need to know that it is not us, the ministry, giving away. It is the kingdom which leased out the land.
Okay.
That's what I wanted to clarify, because the blame has been on us, when actually it should be them to
So
help
the
us.
kingdom owns the land, owns the forest.
That is the claim.
Okay.
But
All right. I think
The-
Bugoma issue is very complicated,
yeah, it is a complex issue.
but we shall follow it up to the last
Yes,
conclusion of it. Justin, I'm sure you could be rallying us so that we can be individuals, Ugandans, and I know Ugandans love their country. We love each other as a country because this is our country and we have no any other but Uganda. So how do we respond at our individual capacities?
Exactly. Thank you so much, Patrick. And I want to use this opportunity to actually call upon Ugandans to support fellow Ugandans in Bundibujo, in Bududa, in Sironko, and other parts of the country. We have actually mapped 13 districts that have been affected in these disasters, and looking at a population of over 30,000 people affected. So we want to mobilize resources. I know it's around December, Christmas gifts. Please, that Christmas gift, send it to Bundibujo and support people who are internally displaced. We are talking of thousands at Semliki Secondary School. On a daily basis, somebody needs to eat food, they need a warm cloth, they need that blanket. Anything that you can give, please come to the Uganda Red Cross. We have 51 districts across the country. You can reach out to any, you can come to our offices in Rubaga, you can call us and we come and pick the items from wherever you are. I want to
call you on what number?
As you can call 0755 000 695.
Could you repeat that?
0755 000 695.
Okay.
And we can come and collect the items from wherever you are. Please support fellow Ugandans and in a bid to save lives. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Irene. I know, and I have hope in the people of Uganda.
000 695.
Okay, thank you very much. I have hope in you, the people of Uganda, that you respond for with a response that is good, that to help the people in need. After all, we are our brother's keeper. We are our sister's keeper, and this is when they need us most. Allow me to conclude by just referring you by your first name, if you don't mind. Thank you, Irene. Thank you, Goret. Thank you, Hilary. And thank you, Justine. Good night, and God bless Uganda.
Good night.